NPTEL lecture series and a chance to chat with the students and faculty in India. And what I wanted to share with you is the subject of global digital economy and how this subject is changing our social, political, economic, and most importantly, our education system and our careers and the jobs. And about my own introduction, I think you have seen my bio, but I wanted to briefly give you some of my focus areas. I am located here in Silicon Valley, where I have worked for more than 30 years in high-tech industries, IBM and Intel and others. And my focus has been, obviously, I've been a lifelong student of technology. The first 20 years I was involved in building technology. Over the last 10 years, I have been more involved in how to apply technology to sectors of economy and work with the industry, academia, and governments all around the world to drive quote unquote digital economy. So that's the background. Let me share with you the topics I want to discuss with you are the following. The first thing is the COVID-19, which is a major pandemic, affects not just people in India, but all over the world. We are all in this tragedy together. And what you will hear is or see is this tragedy is a global tragedy, and hopefully we will come out of this very soon. A lot of work going on in vaccines and therapeutics and others. But I will also share with you how pandemics like this also forces us to learn new way of doing things and apply new technology to address the current issues. Then we will talk about digital economy. What is digital economy means in terms of our education system, our industry, our economy, and how we work globally together. And then I will share with you technology, major technology focus areas from AI to blockchain to other big data and analytics and so on. And then I will discuss about the work I do over the last 10 years called SRII, Service Research Innovation Institute, what it means, what is our focus areas and how we work with the leaders around the world. And then I will discuss the subject of education system. How our education system, which is quite old, how do we drive innovation, which is more geared towards the economy today and tomorrow. Then I will talk about career, what the career means, particularly students like you and academia. You have a big future in front of you. How do you look at the future of your own career, what career means? And what you will see is career meaning is very different than what it was 10, 20, 50 years ago, simply because the economy of the world and the world is changing very fast. And lastly, I want to have a lot of discussion. It's not just my presentations. I want to have a chance to share with you or learn from you and hopefully answer some of your questions and have a dialogue and hopefully build our connection so we can continue to discuss the subject even beyond this particular presentation, okay? Now, on the COVID front, as I said, this is a global tragedy, and we are all going through this together. And what this has done is it is forcing us to adopt to a new norm, new way of doing things. And I think we are all experiencing and exercising all these disciplines. Remote work, I can tell you from Silicon Valley perspective, I would say more than 90% of the employees in Silicon Valley work from home. Obviously, companies are trying to bring people slowly back to work, but I personally feel that the work will never be the same it was before. So even when we have this pandemic gone, you will see that remote work will become a main part of our work system. Distance learning. I'm speaking to you via video, and not just this conference or this talk, but distance learning is slowly becoming a very important part of our learning system, education system. And I think this is just the beginning. This will become even bigger in terms of how we learn, what we learn. You don't always have to go to the classroom, and because of the not just pandemic, but even beyond pandemic, the distance learning is going to become a very important part, a major part of our learning system. Online entertainment, you don't always have to go to movies. You can stream movies and videos on your PCs and smartphones. Telehealth, doctors, for normal checkups, you don't need to go to hospital. You can call your physician, doctors on the video. I have not been to a hospital for many, many decades. Luckily, I have been healthy, so I do check with my doctor on the phone, on the video, and I think that will become even more important as we go forward. We have more advanced technologies coming in the healthcare that allows us to communicate and work with our healthcare system. The shopping, it's no longer just a nice to have, it's going to become a major part of our shopping style. People don't have to go to stores, they can do everything online. Digital contactless payment, supply chain, robotics, drones. So you can see the whole entire social and economic system is going through a new quote unquote norm because of the crisis like COVID is forcing us to adopt to new approach, new system, and most importantly, our digital technology allows us, provides us the tool, the system to adopt to this new norm. Okay. Next one is I will talk about digital economy. What does it really mean and how it's evolving? As I said, I've been very fortunate to be part of Silicon Valley since 1980s. So I have been here for 40 plus years, and I have seen the birth and the growth of Silicon Valley, from building transistors to building computers to internet, the Google, the Facebook, the Amazon, the Apple. And I have been very fortunate to work with many of those pioneers, leaders, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and founders of Google and Facebook and so on. So I will share with you some of my experiences, how Silicon Valley was born, where we are today, and most importantly, how we can build Silicon Valley, not just in California, but we can build Silicon Valley all around the world, okay? So digital economy, so let me take you a historical perspective, how economy has evolved. So I would not take you to the Stone Age, billions of years. Human civilization has existed for more than 1 billion years, from a Stone Age to Metal Age to quote unquote agriculture age. But I'm going to walk you through the last couple hundred years where initially everything was agriculture. Everyone was a farmer. There was no other economy, right? Then comes industrial revolution. We got a steam engine, we got railroad, we got cars, we got airplanes. Then came the quote unquote semiconductor transistors and computers, which gave rise to the new economy called internet economy. And now we are into the next phase, which is called knowledge economy. It's no longer just a computer and microprocessors and hardware and software. It's about your personal skills and expertise is what going to define your future. So this is the era we call the knowledge economy. The Google, the Facebook, and all these companies are all about knowledge economy. They don't sell microprocessor. They don't sell hardware, software. They sell information and based on our personal knowledge and skills. Now let me walk you through some of the digital era. So this slide that I'm sharing with you is quote unquote, how technology growth has accelerated. So if you go back to 1400, 1500, technology was there, but it's a different technology. The printing press, the telescope, the steam engine, and quote unquote, light bulbs and others. So we have innovated and improved technology over the last few hundred years, but the innovation was much, much smaller. The impact on society of those innovations were very small. You can see that line is almost flat. The real innovation started in 1950s when semiconductor transistor was invented. And the first production transistor was in 1960s. So 60s to now 2020. So in last 60 years or so, this is the era of quote unquote digital economy. And in fact, you can see the graph, it shows going up a straight line, means most of the innovations have happened after the transistor was invented, and that gave rise to quote unquote all these companies that you see and all the technology that we use, take it for granted today. It all has happened in last 40, 50 years, 60 years. So in short, even though we as humans have existed for billions of years, but what has happened in the last 50, 60 years has redefined the whole world in terms of who we are, how we work, and how the world works today. It's quite impressive and fascinating, but important thing to remember is not just what has happened in the last 40, 50 years, but what is going to happen in the next 10, 20, 30 years, and how that will affect the economy and all of us as society and all of us as individual. And I think you all as a student and academia has a huge role to play in defining the future of the quote unquote society and digital technology and digital economy as we go forward. So that's the key message. The message is that the digital economy over the last 40, 50 years has retransformed in everything socially, economically, politically, what we do, how we do. But most important is how things are going to evolve as we go forward, okay? And you play a very, very important role because you are the future. You are the future engineers and founders and entrepreneurs and leaders of the society. Next slide is this is a much more a sort of futuristic, very complex slide, but just talks about how new economy is going to evolve with the quote unquote, I call them technology foundations. You see mobile and cloud and analytics and AI and blockchain and internet. All these are quote unquote foundation technology that we are working today. These foundation technology is going to give quote unquote innovation accelerator. The IoT, nanotechnology, robotics, blockchain, 3D printings are all going to come out or coming out of those quote unquote foundation technology. And the next, the big slide you see is quote unquote the new economy. You will see that will emerge out of these quote unquote innovation that we are driving. So we are just in the early stage of the quote unquote new digital economy. So there's so much more going to happen. And again, you are part of this quote unquote making things happen. You as a student, you as a faculty. Now, era of digital transformation, if I have to summarize the things that I have seen myself, back in 80s, building transistor was the coolest thing you can do. I used to work at National Semiconductor. I used to go in the morning building transistors, and I was so excited about building transistors. I didn't want to come home. I wanted to stay in the lab. Then came the quote unquote internet and the computers, internet. And then now we are into a new era where every device has intelligence. The IoT, the smartphone, the fridge and the washing machine, cars and shoes and shirt, all will have intelligence. They all talk to each other. So we are into an era beyond internet, this computer and cell phone. We have a system where everything has intelligence, everything is going to be interconnected. Now the new era is going to be even more exciting, what we call them, the era of digital transformation, where people, process, systems all interconnect. The providers, the customer, the context, all these things are going to be redefined because of digital technology. Okay. In terms of digital economy, particularly from the employment point of view, I think you can see the chart. I just showed you the agriculture economy. Everyone was a farmer back in 1800, 1900. Then came quote unquote manufacturing economy, the industrial revolution. So people started working in factories. Then came services industry. Now the new era is what we call them digital economy, which is all about information-based services. That's where the real growth and that's where the real job And that's where all the economy is shifting from. Not that agriculture is gone, agriculture is still very important, manufacturing is still very important, but important thing to understand is the growth and the most of the work happening from digital technology perspective is in the area of information-based services. So from career point of view, I think that's your basic focus is how to excel, how to understand this particular digital economy and information-based services, and how you build your competency, your career to excel. The next slide is how the technology has transformed the global economy. So this slide is one of my favorite. If you look at last 15, 18 years, in 2001, most of the companies, the largest market cap companies were banks and oil and industrial. There was only one company in that was Microsoft, was from the technology side. Today, all big companies are technology companies. So that shows you while an industrial and banks have not gone away, they're still there. But the real growth happened in the technology industry. All large companies are IT companies, technology companies. So technology has become the foundation of economy all around the world. And I'm very glad to talk to people like you who are IIT students and faculty. You are the instrumental in building the quote unquote, the next foundation for digital economy. Digital economy has also disrupted economy. So if you look at today sectors of economy, right? The Uber is the largest taxi company, but they don't own any taxi, right? Airbnb is the largest hotel without owning any hotel. Skype and WeChat is the largest telecom company without owning any telecom infrastructure, right? The media, the popular media owner create no content. Facebook doesn't create any content. They connect people who create content, right? And so on. The Apple and the Google, the largest software vendors, don't write their own apps. Right? Netflix, the largest movie hall, without owning any movie provider. So these are the new economy created solely because of technology. So if you look at how this economy is shifting, and I think this is just an example of what else to come. So our key message here is the future of economy is all going to be redefined. The sectors will all redefined because of the technology we are inventing today, okay? Digitization of the industry. Some of these slides that I have sent before may not be there. I have added a few slides. So different sectors, I would say that not all economy has taken digital, or digital implementation is not uniform. Some sectors are using more digital than the others, but you can see the media, the finance, the healthcare, manufacturing, energy. A graph shows you there's still a lot of major sectors, for example, manufacturing, energy, healthcare. These are big part of economy, but there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of building digital solutions for these sectors. So for students and academia like you, this is a golden opportunity for you to think about future, think about building solutions for these kind of sectors, which is very big, but there's still a lot of opportunities, right? So at the end, digital economy is in a very simple system and thought is about people, business, data, devices, and processes all interconnected, gives you the quote unquote, the new world of digital economy. Now let me shift gear, talk briefly about technology trends. What's happening in not just Silicon Valley, but all around the world. In my role, in the last 10 years, I get to work with universities and government and companies all over the world, in Asia, in Europe, in Australia, in India. And I am very fascinated and impressed with all the great innovations, not just in Silicon Valley, but all around the world. India plays a very important role. You have one of the best technical institutes like IITs and others, and you produce a lot of engineers, a lot of companies, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And I will share with you some of my perspective, particularly from India perspective. I was born in India, so I know Indian system. I came to US when I was relatively young. So I've lived most of my life in US, but I still visit India and I work with Indian companies and government and organizations. And deep inside, I'm still Indian at heart, even though I work at international level. So I will share with you some of my personal perspectives of few things we can do better, particularly in, if I look at the largest economy in the world, United States is the largest, the second largest is China. And as you have seen, I'm very connected with China. I am visiting professor at Tsinghua University. I'm also advisor to their government. So I'm very closely connected with the Chinese economy and industry. And I can see some clear distinction between China and India in terms of economy, in terms of people, in terms of systems. And I'll be very happy to share even beyond this talk, because this talk is only limited to 1 hour, but I'll be happy to connect with you, and anyone has questions and comments, I'll be very happy to share. So let's talk about the technology focus areas, what's happening in the broader context. So at the highest level, 3 things happening. The world is getting interconnected, convergence of digital and physical world all around, right? Then we have dynamic mesh, connection of people, processes, things, services, and that provides a digital ecosystem. And lastly, everything is becoming intelligent. So you will hear a lot about big data, data analytics, AI, machine learning, and XYZ, the blockchain, and so on. But at the highest level, these are the 3 major drivers: the interconnected world, the dynamic connection of people and processes, and every system becoming intelligent. So those are the 3 biggest sort of, change that is driving everything else that we do. Second thing happening is data, and I will share quite a bit about data, subject of data. Data is the new oil of digital economy. So as you know, the industrial revolution and the industry before I showed you slide, the oil was the kind of engine of economy. Now, oil is no longer the engine of the economy. I showed you the biggest companies today are all digital technology companies, no longer Exxon and Mobil and other oil company that used to be the largest market cap company. So data is becoming the new oil of the digital economy. So I think you as students and faculty, one of my messages to you is learn about data as much as possible. Doesn't matter what major you studied, computer science, electrical engineering, industrial, mechanical, whatever subjects we study in schools, data is going to be foundation for every discipline, every sectors of economy. And I don't need to go over a lot of these slides, but shows you how the data is exploding all over the world. And most importantly, 90% of the data has been created in the last 2 years. So that's kind of the change that we are dealing with. Then now you can imagine how data will look like in the next 5 years, 10 years, where we are dealing with only 2 years of data. You can imagine how things will look in 5 years, 10 years, how much more data we'll have, and how to analyze them, how to make sense, how to build economy around the new data, okay? Data is coming from many sources. Obviously, the PC was our main source of communication. Then came the smartphones. Now the IoT, the sensors are everywhere. Everything has sensors. Every sensor has intelligence. They connect and provide tons and tons of data. And beyond the sensor is now the social networking. The people are creating tons and tons of data at a social level. So in the short story is the data is going to be a very big subject, and we are just barely scratching the surface, okay? By 2025, we will have generated 160 zettabyte. Zettabyte is 1 trillion gigabyte. That tells you how much data is going to be there for us to work and create value, create economy, create new career. Okay. I'm going to fast forward some of the slides because I have many other slides. I have, let me see the time wise. I want to make sure that I have enough time for discussions with you. The slide, the big data, we talk about a lot of how much data is created in 60 seconds. And I think you will see this kind of slide everywhere, right? From tweets to all the social medias, the search, the emails, and all the mobile applications we use. There is a jillions of data that we create. And the unfortunate part is what you will hear about structured versus unstructured. 80% data is still, we call them unstructured. We don't understand. So all the data, Google and Facebooks and others who are trying to sell and make money and create economy is still a very small part. We still 80% data is not very well understood. So that's a challenge, but also an opportunity for new engineers like you to go create industry, create companies, create solutions. I will fast forward these evolution of data analytics. This is something that people in academia are very good understanding how we have come from data warehousing to data mining to data analytics. And that subject is, as I said, is very big. And as I said, we are barely scratching the surface. There's so much more to be done, particularly in the area of data analytics, where stream processing, massively distributed, no SQL databases, and gigabytes of data. So this is a huge subject in terms of data analytics as a field. The next one is where we are in terms of data analytics as a discipline. So if you look at what we do with the data and the value of data, we inform, analyze, act, and provide value, right? So that's sort of, the impact of data analytics. And the unfortunate part is a lot of our current focus in data analytics is still in the early stage, collecting data, analyzing data, and we are barely trying to act, and prescriptive means how we can predict what things will happen based on the analytics we have done. So that tells you some percentage, but those percentages are not that important. Important thing is there is still a lot of work to be done when it comes to predictive and prescriptive value of the data. So this is, again, a huge opportunity for academia and students like you. This cannot just be done in Google and Facebook and Amazon and Apple. You in the universities have a big role to play in going and focusing on the subject of data analytics in the area of predictive and prescriptive values. Okay, I'm going to fast forward some of the slides here. I have many slides. You will hear many sub-terms: data mining, data machine learning, AI, databases. What I have shown you is all these terms are around the core subject of data mining. Data is the foundation, and how you mine, and that gives rise to all the other associated subjects: data mining, AI, statistics, computational, neuroscience. All these things relies on data and data mining. So important thing is, as I said before, you cannot overemphasize the importance of data and data mining and data analytics, because this is how all these new fields are evolving based on the data, okay? The other term you will hear about AI, artificial intelligence. And I have been in the industry for 30 some years, and I have heard and been part of this subject. So I'm going to share with you some of my personal perspective. I personally don't like the word AI, artificial intelligence. I would rather call it augmented intelligence. Artificial has a connotation that somehow it is a substitute to human intelligence or something different. No, human intelligence will always be very, very important. Human intelligence, we create computers, we create data, we build technologies. Technology doesn't build human. Maybe someday we may get humans being built by technology, but that will be a different era and different subject. But artificial / augmented reality is an old subject. It's not a new subject. If this subject was discussed in 1960s, 70s, 80s. But important thing is that subject initially was much more sort of, conceptual, more like a wish list. Now it is becoming more and more real because of three things. Why AI is becoming far more real now than it was 30, 40 years ago? Number one, we have lots of data that didn't exist before. I showed you a slide. Most of the data, 90% data was created in the last 2 years. So if you don't have the data, then you cannot analyze, you cannot create artificial intelligence, okay? So we have lots of data. We have also a lot of storage. We don't have to store data on the PC and your own server. You can put it in the cloud. You can store tons and tons of data. So more data, more storage, and we have much better algorithm to analyze those data, right? So at the highest level, AI has becoming important for those three regions. A lot of data. Oh, or one more thing, the processing power. The microprocessor and processors, when I started in 80s and 90s, we're talking about kilohertz, the megahertz, the gigahertz wasn't even, never even thought about, right? Now, when I started back in 80s, building 100 transistors on one chip was a big accomplishment. Now we have silicon chips with over 30 billion transistors on one tiny chips. 30 billion transistors. That tells you how the processing power has. So you will hear about these technologies separately, but what you will start seeing is the convergence of AI, blockchain, and IoT, giving rise to sort of new platform, new applications, and hopefully new economy, okay? 5G is another cellular technology, which is again, is going to be a very big part of economy, because now our economy is becoming very mobile. We use smartphones for almost everything, but that application needs to be much faster to do more and more things mobile. So we need to go from current speed of what we call them to almost a gigabyte speed per second compared to megabytes per second today. And that's 5G has the promising technology, promising platform, and a lot of work is still needs to be done. I see in India, the Geo from Reliance is working on driving mobile technology in India. Hopefully they will play an important role. Internet security is another very big subject. So I'm just sharing with you some of the subjects that is very complex, but a lot of opportunity for young engineers and students like you in academia to sort of focus in looking at the future. Internet security is becoming a big subject for the following reason. At one hand, internet was built around connecting the whole world for doing everything. So at one hand, technology is pushing everyone to connect with each other and do everything on the internet. On the other hand, we also find that this creates a lot of loopholes. There could be bad actors who can also create some major problem if we are not very careful. So internet security is becoming, as technology advances, it also poses a new threat from security point of view. How do we secure what we are building? And there is no one solution. I think from what I see from Silicon Valley and around the world, it's almost like a balanced approach. You can't be so afraid of security and not drive innovation. You need to keep driving innovation and keep fixing the holes that it creates. You can't just get so paranoid about security that you cannot drive innovation. So innovation and handling security has to go hand in hand, okay? So anyway, I've shared with you economy of the world, how it's becoming digital. I've shared with you kind of bigger picture of the internet and how it's evolving. Now I'm going to share with you what I am working on personally with leaders around the world called SRII. We created SRII about 10 years ago. After spending 20 years in Silicon Valley working for IBM and Intel, I realized that companies, no matter how big you are, companies focus on technology, product. One company cannot focus on economy, cannot focus on healthcare versus finance versus transportation versus e-commerce. So me and some of my friends in Silicon Valley who have spent similar amount of time, we got together, we felt that we need to think beyond one company. We need to look at global economy and how can digital technology not just help IBM and Intel and Microsoft and Google become bigger and make more money and the stock price go up and people become rich, but how can we help 7.5 billion people in the world? And that's one challenge we have. Digital technology and economy has evolved and doing wonderful things. But if you look at a global level, we have 7.5 billion people in the world, right? But the digital economy and digital technology has not reached all 7.5 billion people. How do we help with this wonderful, great things we are creating to not just help a small percentage of people? Currently, we are talking about 2 billion people, and not only people who are rich can afford all these digital solutions, but how do we help people who have limited resources, limited earnings? How do we help digital technology be useful to them? So this is kind of the thinking of creating SRII, Service Research Innovation Institute, we created with the participation of big companies, academias, industry from all over the world. Our mission was drive digital solution for economy at large and for a better world. So it's no longer just helping one company, one technology, but helping society at large. And to do this, here is the major strategy. Strategy is, at one hand, we look at economy. We look at healthcare, education, government, finance, manufacturing, energy, retail, telecom, agriculture, transportation. This is how the global economy runs. These are the sectors of economy, right? People work in this economy, they connect and they provide services. Then on the right-hand side is technology, AI and cloud computing, edge computing, data analytics, mobile, social networking, internet security, and so on. So how do we connect these technology innovation to sectors of economy? So that's our major focus in SRII. That cannot be done at one company level. That requires a global platform. And this is what we created about 10 years ago when I was part of the IBM research. And then we made SRII independent, and I became the founder and the CEO. And our mission here is, if you look at these technology innovations from Intel and Microsoft and Google and Apple and others, they are all moving to the bigger picture. Oh, I am an AI company, I'm a cloud company. But if you look at closely, Microsoft is all about building operating system, Office, and so on. Intel is about building microprocessors. Apple is about building smartphones, right? So these companies are still very technology focused around a specific area they have competency, which is great. Now what is happening is all these technology companies are moving to the higher level. If you talk to Intel or Microsoft, they would not tell you I am an OS and microprocessor company. They will tell you I'm a cloud company, I'm a big data company, and so on. So we have moved from product technology discussion to quote unquote platform discussion. But that's still not enough. We need to connect this technology to economy. What does healthcare, how healthcare runs, how manufacturing runs? What does cloud mean for healthcare? What does big data mean for finance versus agriculture? So this is a big subject that requires all of us to connect, to build solutions, taking advantage of the technology to connecting to economy. So this is our big focus in SRII, okay? And the way we look at is, and I will fast forward this thing. I know we have 20 some minutes left. So healthcare. So the way we look at every sector, we look at from sector point of view. We don't look at from technology. If you look at the technology industry, In the past, every technology industry looks at from technology side and how their technology product can solve industry uh, challenges. So Intel will build microprocessor, how microprocessor can help healthcare and manufacturing and finance. Microsoft will build OS and Office to help those sectors. Now we are looking from the end user side. How does healthcare run? What is their major issues? How can technology help? How can cloud and big data and mobility help healthcare? Not the other way around. Put the end user in the center and then understand their problems and challenges and then build solutions. Don't force technology on top of somebody without knowing their issues. So that's a big shift that's happening in the technology industry to understanding the end user and building the right solution. So I'm going to fast forward these slides, but you got the picture. So if you look at healthcare, healthcare problem is cost, quality, value. How healthcare runs. Healthcare is still the most costly system, not just in US, but all over the world. Government and society spends most of their money on the healthcare. Okay, what kind of value we get out of that cost, right? How can we make healthcare more productive, more efficient, and then how do we apply big data, cloud, and mobility to help doctors do a better job, the insurance company do a better job? How can the patients be in charge of their own healthcare, right? So you should have a technology, you should become your personal doctor that should tell you how you feel, and they can talk to your doctor, talk to your pharmacy, and so on, okay? This application of AI into and all this technology in healthcare, I'm just sharing this slide, how healthcare is, as an example, how all this technology we talk about has a huge role to play and value to provide to these sectors, right? Okay, wearable sensors, medication adherence, artificial intelligence as a robot, right? How can biotechnology, bio-nanotechnology can be helpful to healthcare, understanding our inner operation of the system, right? There's so much to be done. There's still a lot of innovation needs to be done. Human body is very complex. We still don't understand human body inside, exactly how each system works. Can we apply some nanotechnology to better understand the inner function of our body, right? So there's a lot of work to be done in this area, right? Same thing, manufacturing. How manufacturing is changing. Manufacturing was all in the past putting a lot of people to do a certain task. Now those tasks are being replaced by robots and computers and drones and others. How do we apply data analytics, cloud computing, robotics to drive manufacturing efficiency and productivity as we go forward? I can tell you, I work in China with a lot of companies. China's largest economy is manufacturing, right? And they are in the process of transitioning from manufacturing to quote unquote digital economy. It's a big subject. How do you move from quote unquote manufacturing based economy to digital economy, particularly when they have such a large population, 1 point some billion people, where they have the jobs in manufacturing? How can you train them to be more digitally competent and work in the area of the new field? But that has to happen, and that is how every country is going to drive. I'm going to share some agriculture, subject of agriculture. I presented recently to a agriculture technology summit. As I said before, agriculture is still a very important part of economy, not just as a part of GDP, but we as humans, we can't survive for too long without good food. We can survive without computers or smartphones and internet for a few days, but we can't survive without food. So we still need food. And the other thing is the global population is getting bigger, right? People are moving out of the farming villages to the cities. So a lot of factors affecting the farming and agriculture business. So how do we help agriculture? And most importantly, people who work in the agriculture industry, they are not necessarily most technically literate people, how do we help them with this new IoT and cloud and big data technology so the farmers can be more productive? Farming and agriculture is one of the least productive in terms of the how much earning farmers have. They are the poorest among all the sectors of economy. How do we provide this sort of technology to agriculture industry so that we help the farmers, we produce the better quality food, we can manage the food supply and the quality of food in a much more intelligent way. Smart city, the cities are becoming crowded everywhere. People are moving from, as I said, rural to the big cities, but city doesn't have infrastructure. I go to India and I see big cities like Bangalore and Delhi and others. It's a nightmare. I know how people even drive and how people live in such a congested place, and the air quality and the infrastructure. How do we make city more cleaner and more productive and more efficient? So much to be done in the smart city area. Government, how government runs. Government plays a very big part of economy and society all over the world, particularly in emerging economies like India, where government is your biggest source of resources, biggest source of employment. And how do we provide government right tools? And I know Modi's government, I'm somewhat connected with them. Modi was here in Silicon Valley a few years ago, and I had a chance to meet with the Modi and his team, and we had a very good chat. And they sounded very excited about applying Digital India, they call it, and they're talking at least to do a lot of work in the area of making economy and government more digital. But it's not just for India, but governments all around the world. We need a better infrastructure, better tools for government to provide the right services, services to the citizens, and so on. So this is for how do we make government more productive with the help of digital technology. Now I'm going to shift gear. Hopefully I'll have time to talk about education. Education is something that I spend now at least 20–30% of my time with the universities around the world as a lecturer and also teaching some programs, because education is where the young people, we create the workforce of the future, and they are the future leaders. And I must tell you, even though I work in the Silicon Valley, but I've also worked with the academia world, with Berkeley and Stanford and others in Silicon Valley very closely. And I am a big fan of education system. I will tell you my personal story. I was born in India. My parents used to remind us about the value of education. And he used to tell us, if you have education, you can do a lot of things. And I think that we followed his preachings, and we went to school, and we came to US, and we are four, my brothers are in America, and we all have done what our parents wanted us to do by focusing on education. So education is what has made us successful to this extent. And same thing I do with my children. I have two kids. I have a daughter and a son. My daughter went to Stanford. My son went to Berkeley, and they're both engineers. They both have their own startup companies in Silicon Valley. So we have maintained the tradition about focusing on education. And so I'm going to share with you what things I do on a personal level and what I learned from universities around the world. Number one, education system is very old. And I must tell you, I'm very disappointed with the changes happening so slowly in the education system. We are still very compartmentalized for political reasons, for how the education system was built. I'm industrial, I'm mechanical, I'm civil, I'm electrical, I'm computer science. All these departments were designed, I don't know, 100 years ago. That we need to break those walls. We need to make those departments much more interactive, much more interdisciplinary. Nobody cares about computer science and EE and information service system when it comes to the knowledge. And I think we need to, and my message to the teachers particularly, and department heads and deans. I work with many university vice chancellors and deans, and I am very forceful in my message to them that they must change the system in terms of how education system is built. Break those walls, break them, make them more interconnected. Education is no longer just 4-year degree or go to IITs or any university and get a degree and you're all set. That was education 50 years ago. When you get a degree and you work all your life in mechanical, electrical, whatever you studied. Now in the new world, you will need to learn technology all the time. The subjects will change very, very fast. So what programming language you are learning today, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, it will be useless. You need to learn new things. So don't focus too much on the subject, focus on learning yourself, okay? And focus on building solutions, understand economy, understand society, what the problems are, how Google and Facebook and Amazons are built. They're not built on subjects, they're built on solving social economic issues. And I will share some of those pioneers and their thinking, okay? So make education a lifelong learning. Don't just focus on getting degree. Degree may get you interview in a company, but may not get you a job. And you cannot keep a job unless you are learning all the time. Okay, I can tell you, Google. Whenever Google